I don't know about you, but I'm always keen to make my houseplant care a little bit easier. And so when I found out about smart houseplant sensors, like tech for your houseplants, I knew that I had to give it a go and let y'all know what I think. So I went and got myself some smart houseplant sensors from 3 different companies in order to test them out and try them for you. And I started this test about a month ago. And to be honest, I have some thoughts on them and how they work because some of them didn't. Before I get into that though, I want to say if you're new here and you don't know me already, hi, my name is Emma and I make houseplanty content all over the internet. So if you want to follow along with my houseplanty journey and maybe learn something along the way, stick around, watch some more of my videos and subscribe to my channel. If you are not new here, welcome back. I really appreciate you tuning into this. I'd also be really curious if you have had experience with any of these or any other houseplant smart sensor monitor things, what your thoughts on them are. Feel free to pop it down in the comments or shoot me a message on Instagram letting me know your experiences, or if you found more that you would like me to try out, I can do that and put even more to the test. But without further ado, let's get into this. First up, a little bit of details about each of them. Sorry, I've got my notes here because I wanted to make sure that I had all the information ready. But first up, I want to go into a little bit of slight detail about each one of them. The first sort of one is from Earth One. It's an Earth One plant monitor, and I actually got a pack of 4 of these, I think at the end of 2023, because I saw them online and I'm like, I need to try these immediately. And they were actually pretty decently priced, I'd say. You can get one plant monitor for £27 or 4 of them for £100. And so I did end up getting 4 at that time. Just getting one didn't feel like enough because I couldn't find any sort of other plant sensors online at the time. This was like the first one that I ever properly saw. And so I wanted to actually give it a good go. And I did use this one for quite a bit, specifically in my Schismatoglottis wallacei. I found it very, very useful for that plant because that one in soil needed a lot more water than I was giving it on a sort of regular basis. And so having one of these in there helped remind me to water more often than I probably would have on my own and actually keep it alive. But eventually I did end up switching my Schismatoglottis to semi-hydro, and therefore this was null and void, and I pretty much stopped using it from then. But then at the end of 2024, I started seeing ads all over my Instagram, basically everywhere. I think YouTube too, even maybe. But I started seeing ads for the Willow Smart Plant Sensor and Hub combo. It does come with a hub. I'm not gonna unplug it because it's all the way somewhere else, and I've plugged it in properly, hooked it up, put it behind things, whatever. But I've started seeing these online and I was like, ooh, what would be great if I could put these 2 against each other, see what's what, see which one I like better, kind of thing. And so I got myself one of these. One sensor plus the hub was 40 quid. A little bit more expensive, definitely, but you could get them in multi-packs as well. You get 3 sensors plus a hub for £80, or 5 sensors plus a hub for £120. You can also, once you've got the hub, which none of the others had a hub, so I don't know why this one has a hub. It does. But once you've got the hub, you can hook up 40 different sensors to that one hub. So you can buy the sensors separately after that. I also saw that you can get extenders as well, which I did quite like because, all of these are fairly similar in size, but if you've got a sort of bigger plant with a bigger pot, you can get an extender with this one specifically. This was the only one that had extenders to be able to get deeper into the pot and the soil in order to better get a reading on the moisture level needed for that plant. So I found that to be pretty cool. And then, you know what else I found? Randomly, I saw that Elho, my favorite plant pot company, they make one. I think it's pretty new from them, but they have created the Elho Smart Pebble, this natural rock looking thing. I feel like this one looks the least like tech, but you can get one sensor of these for £40, which Again, it's all very similar in price. None of them seem to be that different price-wise. They're all pretty comparable. And so I wouldn't say one is definitely better for the price. I am not going to want to use something if it looks ugly. And so aesthetics are kind of important for me in this. And so that's why I'm including it so early on, because I think some of these definitely look better than others. They are all fairly minimal looking. They're all like pretty hidden. I think probably my favorite looking one is the Willow, and you can get it in this sort of charcoal gray color or green, and I mean, whatever color you prefer. I prefer the gray, I think, just because it kind of blends in more with the shadows. I find this one, I feel really weird saying this because I absolutely love the aesthetics of all of the other Hello products. I hate the way this looks. I get what they're trying to go for, like a sort of natural, organic, like rock sort of thing, but I don't know why they made it flesh colored. Like this is flesh color. It looks like a weird thumb or something sticking out of the soil. Like if they wanted to go for more of a pebble, in my opinion, I would have made it gray or like charcoal colored or something. This to me is just slightly too flesh toned, but I mean, it's okay. Maybe people like it. It wouldn't have been my choice, but like I mean, it's fine. It's not my favorite. I think definitely the most low profile one is the Willow. The Earth ones are a little bit bigger, and this one kind of sticks out a little bit. So the Willow definitely, I think, makes the most sense. But that being said, the Earth one monitor is not ugly. I find them like quite minimal as well. And like, I mean, I also quite like the shape. So I think definitely fan of these two looks. Not a fan of this one look, unfortunately. The setup for these were all pretty simple and all pretty similar as well. Each of them has their own app, and you connect the sensor, the hub, to Wi-Fi, and then it goes in and connects to the app and can then like alert you of things. And they were all pretty easy to get set up. The Willow one did take a second to like sort of connect to my internet, but I mean, I got it there, no problem, and I'm not really, like, I haven't had to think about it since, which is great. Also, when I was deciding which plant to put them in, I did decide on my Bird of Paradise because the pot was big enough to, like, fit all three of them in quite next to each other so they could all be getting the exact same input. And I used the plant ID feature on all of them to identify the plant, and they all got that correct, which is pretty cool. I don't know if they would get every single houseplant correct. It probably depends on the plant, but for the Bird of Paradise specifically, they were all able to correctly identify that that's what that was, and it made it really easy to set up because I could just say, yeah, it's that, let's go, tell me when to water this thing. I'd say the most important feature of all of them is that they will all measure the soil moisture of your plant to tell you when it is time to water your plant again. But some of them do have more features. The Earth one and the Willow both also sense humidity, temperature, and light intensity. They've got these like sort of clear sections on them where the light can go into that and it can measure the amount of light is in there. So no matter where you put your plant, as long as like it's not being blocked from the light source, it like by a leaf or something, or the stem, they can see the light and sense whether or not that is enough and give you recommendations. If it thinks your plant is getting too much light or too little light, it can tell you. And I think that might be quite useful during like the sort of changing of seasons, because sometimes you need to move your plants further away or closer to the window depending on the season, and your monitor with these two would be able to tell you when you needed to do that. The Elho one doesn't have a light sensor within it. It doesn't have any sort of clear bit to it, but it does still have the feature. It just uses your smartphone's camera to sort of be a light sensor, and you can do that as and when you sort of move the plant, or if the time of year changes and you want to see how the light is changing, you can manually do that with your smartphone, but it isn't like a constant supply of information about whether or not the plant is getting enough light. This one also doesn't sense humidity at all, which I find kind of interesting because like, how do these sense humidity and this one doesn't? I don't see a space or somewhere. Like I don't know how they sense humidity. But the Elho one doesn't, whereas the Earth one and the Willow do. But the thing that the Elho one does that the other two don't is sense the soil nutrients. I'm not quite sure how it does that, but according to it and the app and everything, it can sense your soil nutrients and let you know when you need to be fertilizing your plant again, which, I mean, I think is kind of cool. The Earth one doesn't have any sort of fertilizer reminders or anything, whereas the Willow, it can remind you. You can set up notifications to remind you, but that's purely on like a time-based schedule, not sensing in the soil whether or not it needs fertilizer like the Elho is meant to. So I found that really interesting. I haven't gotten to a point with my bird of paradise within this time for this to tell me it needs more fertilizer, but it's cool that that is an option for it. The apps themselves for all of the sensors are all pretty easy to use, simple enough to navigate quite easily. I didn't have any sort of trouble getting through them and figuring things out, which is great. That's what you want out of an app. But that being said, I did find the Earth One app a little bit clunky. I just think it just doesn't quite look as nice as the Willow and the Elho apps, given the Elho app doesn't have that much information in it. And there's like not even a way to like subscribe or join a membership for more information with the Elho one. It's just like what you see is what you get. There's like not that much. There's no stats or graphs or anything. Whereas the Earth One plant monitors, you can see some stats. You can get like the moisture of the soil for the past 1 or 3 days for free, which is great. Anything longer than that time frame, you would need to pay for membership, which I think was $4.99 a month, which I didn't pay for any of the apps for any of these. I don't personally feel like I need to, but I did like that you could get some analytics in the Earth one for free. You could just get more if you paid for the subscription. All of the sort of historical plant data and analytics is unfortunately behind a paywall for Willow. I think it's $2.99 a month. They didn't have it in pounds. So you could get that if you wanted, and I do like that it is a little bit cheaper than the Earth one. But again, I didn't pay for any of these subscription membership wise. I really struggle with that as a model. Like, I know they need to make money somehow, but also give me information. I paid for the hardware. Can you just please give me the information? So yeah, I mean, all of the apps are easy enough to use, so that's great. And I didn't struggle with any of them. Notification wise, I have some bones to pick with Elho. I don't know why. I am not sure exactly what happened here, but this thing alerted me every single day that my plant needed water. Every day. I would get a notification, maybe sometimes twice a day, that my plant needed water. Even if I had just watered it, it would say my plant was thirsty. And so I think something was going wrong with the sensor in there. Maybe I need to try a different plant for this one and see it somewhere else. I think maybe I just have a faulty one or something. But this thing, every single day, would send me a notification saying my plant needed water, which was not true. My bird of paradise was not thirsty every single day. And so I didn't water the plant every single time this one told me to, because if I did, I probably would have drowned my plant, unfortunately. I did water when 2 of the 3 apps said that I needed to water, which, I mean, I guess really meant when one of these told me that it needed water. And one time I did do that when the Elho and the Earth One said it was thirsty. I gave it a good water. And what I found quite interesting was then the Willow sent me a notification saying, hey, I think you watered me a little bit early, which I found really interesting. I don't think it was necessarily too early for the plant. I don't think it's caused a problem. My bird of paradise is absolutely fine, but I like that it told me that I watered it too early. I found that really interesting, whereas I can't speak to the Elho, but the Earth One doesn't tell you if you water it too early. It doesn't tell you if you watered it too much, or anything like that. That's not a service this one provides, but Willow does, which I quite liked. And also, when I watered it last was actually when all three of them said that it needed water. And the Willow one also judged how well I watered it, how thoroughly I watered the plant. I actually got a notification an hour or so later saying, hey, next time can you give me a little bit more of a thorough drenching? Which I found incredibly interesting. I thought I had given it quite a lot. I gave it 2 liters of water, nearly, which is quite a lot, given the plant is quite big. So maybe a longer sensor would have been better for all of these, but that wasn't an option. But either way, I found it really interesting that it said, hey, give me more water next time. And so I can then, next time I go to water the plant, give it more than I did this time. And so I feel like the Willow sensor just generally gave the most information, gave the most feedback. Also, there's a setting you could set to whether or not you want your notifications to be sassy or very straight to the point. I picked sassy, obviously, because I think that's way more fun. But it just adds a little bit of character, and I really enjoyed that out of the Willow one. Also, I should say I can't speak to the battery life on any of these because none of them ran out of battery in the month that I was using them. So, I mean, that's good. They last for at least a month, which is great. Even if I had to charge these once a month, I think it would probably be worth it for me. But the fact that I didn't need to charge any of them over that time, more than happy. I wonder if you can check the battery level. Oh yeah, okay, cool. My Willow still has 98% battery and it's been a month, which is awesome. This one only has 34% battery left, which that's a lot shorter. I think that could be because this one is putting out a Wi-Fi signal itself, whereas the Willow one is sending it to the hub, which will then do the Wi-Fi and connectivity thing. And so that means this one, the battery will just in general last longer. I think that makes quite a lot of sense. The Earth one has 46% battery left. So again, this one is sending the signal from its actual thing. So it makes sense that these two are going to run out a little bit faster than the Willow one will. But so far, like I said, even if I have to charge them once a month, I feel like that's a reasonable amount to charge tech. And the charging probably doesn't take very long for them because they are such small devices. So I really wouldn't worry about battery too much. I can't speak on the longevity of the battery. If over time they end up decreasing battery life, it's quite possible with most tech that does just generally happen. But I think it'd be fine. I think it'd probably be fine. I think I'm not necessarily the target user for these products because I have so many plants and so many years of experience taking care of plants. I kind of have a pretty decent idea of when my plants need water. And so I don't necessarily need a sensor in there to shoot me a message when it needs water. So I don't necessarily need these personally, but I think it could be quite useful for a beginner plant parent to sort of get used to things, or even someone who's just got a few bigger plants throughout their house and doesn't even want to think about when they need to water their plants. Just stick one of these in the soil. It'll tell you when, and you don't have to worry about it, really. I feel like this could be really, really useful for that. But if I were to put one of these in every single plant in my collection that's in soil, I would need to spend hundreds, if not thousands, of pounds to do so, which I don't think is very reasonable. I don't think I necessarily need to do, and also I think it would look really weird if I had loads of these little weird flesh rocks just sticking out of the soil of all of my plants. Also, it wouldn't really work very well, I think, at least for these two. If the plant was any smaller than that high, if you have any sort of really small plants, it might not work. This one, I feel like you have a little bit more room with it. You could do something that's maybe about half the size, so that's really cool. And in the end, I do think the Willow's probably just the best of the three. I think in general, it looks like the most modern bit of tech. It has the best battery life. It had the most functions. It was a little bit sassy, which I quite liked, and is generally quite good, in my opinion. If I were to get more, I would definitely get more of the willow ones. And I mean, there's definitely some plants in my collection that could benefit from using them. Things like I said, like my Schismatoglottis, that I wasn't watering enough without it, and so having the reminders to tell me when was really, really useful. And so maybe if you have a plant that you forget about, or it's in a different room to others, or it's like all of the rest of your plants are cactus and succulents, and you have one that's a tropical plant, it might be useful to put this in the tropical plant because you'll need to water at very different times to the sort of cacti and succulents. And so I can see like many uses for these things, but I don't think I would need to have very many in my collection. But I thought this was a really fun test. I will keep going with it and see what's going on. I think I'll probably try a different plant with my pebble. I've tried to like disconnect it and reconnect it. I could not get it to sense water data. It sensed temperature and nutrients, I think, fine. It was saying my plant was fine, so that's good. But the water data was the bit that it wasn't quite doing. So I think I will just have to try this on a different plant. I'm also tempted to do a test where I get 4 of the same plant and put 1 in each, and then have 1 control where I literally only water when this little device tells me to water, and we can see how each of them grow. If that's something that you'd be interested in, let me know and I can make that happen. I think I might just do it regardless of whether or not you want me to do it, but let me know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing, because I would find that quite fun. I do love myself a little science experiment. So yeah, that's it. That's all the information I have about these 3 different bits of plant tech. I will put links to all of them down below in the description if you want to give them a go for yourself. I'm not affiliated with any of these. These are my honest opinions. I just wanted to try them out and give them a go. So try them out. Maybe wait on the Elho one. I wouldn't currently recommend it, but these 2, definitely give them a go and try them out for yourself. Before I sign off though, I want to say a huge thank you to the newest members of my Good Growing fam over on Patreon, Isabel, Craig, and Charlotte. Thank you so much for joining in. I really hope you love it over there. If anyone else is interested in joining, it is £3 a month, and for that you get all of the things. You can think about it like buying me a cup of coffee each month or running one of my grow lights, because that's about how much it costs to run one of my grow lights each month. And you get bonus content and access to live chats and the Discord server, and generally more access to me and fun planty chat. So it's there if you want it, but absolutely no pressure if that is not your thing. Otherwise, thank you all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up down below and leave a comment on other houseplanty things you'd like me to talk about in the future. If, like I said earlier, if there's any other bits of plant tech you'd like me to give a go to, let me know and I can hopefully make that happen in the future. And subscribe for more. Thank you again so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to keep growing. Bye!